It was supposed to unite a nation, but instead, it became Europe's most cursed stadium. For 40 years, Lithuania tried and failed to finish one football ground. Lawsuits, scandals, missing millions, and still no stadium. Stick around till the end, because this isn't just about concrete and turf. It's about how a dream became a national tragedy that refuses to die. In the early 1980s, back when Lithuania still existed as a satellite of the Soviet Union, hope was poured into blueprints by architect Algimantas Nasvytis. A man of vision, Algimantas Nasvytis had designed the Seimais Palace, the seat of Lithuanian parliament, alongside the Lithuanian National Drama Theatre and the White Bridge. Yet none of those projects carried the weight of what came next. He was commissioned to create a coliseum for a nation still unborn, a cathedral for a football team that technically didn't even exist. The Lithuanian National Stadium was meant to stand as a glorious home of FK Žalgiris Vilnius, the country's rising football club. It was meant to welcome 30,000 screaming fans, to celebrate something more than sport, national identity. But identity, like stadiums, can take time to construct. Lithuania's independence movement was accelerating, and when it finally broke free from the claws of the USSR in March 1990, the stadium, half built and half forgotten, was left behind in the rubble of revolution. The architects had laid the first stones in 1987. By 1991, Soviet tanks had rolled through Vilnius, civilians had died defending television towers, and the stadium scaffolding had grown cold with dust. Construction halted. Lithuania had become independent, but its dreams, like the stadium, had nowhere to stand. As the nation fought its way out of Soviet ashes in the 1990s, it plunged headfirst into the kind of economic collapse that few today can truly comprehend. The ruble crumbled. Hyperinflation hit homes like a plague. Consumer prices in 1991 rose by 225%. Unemployment soared to 18%. The GDP fell by over 60%. People didn't need seats in a stadium. They needed seats at a table with food. And so, the concrete structure sat silent atop a hill, like an ancient ruin of a civilization that never quite existed. Some called it a monument to Soviet overreach. Others whispered it was cursed. It would take until 2008 before anyone dared to awaken the beast. With European Union membership secured and Lithuania enjoying its first real taste of economic stability, the government, alongside Vilnius city officials, decided to resurrect the dream. Not just a stadium this time, a complex, an entire sports kingdom with pitches, arenas, museums, and a community center. Architects dusted off their drawing boards. The budget ballooned to 107 million euros. And then, like clockwork, the global financial crisis struck, slicing through Lithuania's fragile confidence like a guillotine. Government funding dried up overnight. Teacher salaries were prioritized. Promises were broken. Construction stopped again. But not before 33 million euros had already vanished, swallowed whole by the soil beneath Vilnius. No grass, no lights, no stands, just lorries, excavators, and ghosts. And the ghosts multiplied. In 2009, Lithuania Supreme Court declared the construction contract null and void, illegal. Lawsuits followed like vultures. Plans were shelved again. Years passed. More political infighting, more economic swings. And still, that haunting skeletal structure lingered, its rebar ribs poking out into the Lithuanian sky like a carcass too stubborn to decay. Lithuania's national football team, having risen from nothing in 1990, had no place to call home. Their matches were played in the second city, Kaunas, at the aging Darius and Jairina Stadium, a venue first opened in 1925, expanded in the 1970s, and barely fit for purpose in the new millennium. When they finally shifted to the LFF Stadium in Vilnius in 2012, it came with hope, but only briefly. The LFF Stadium had a capacity of 5,000. That's not a typo. 5,000. Its southern stand, renovated just 2 years prior, cracked during a match against Malta. Supporters were injured. Engineers shrugged. Nothing changed. The truth was painful. Lithuania, a country that built its national scent, yes, an official fragrance, had somehow failed to build a stadium in 40 years. The same country that led the charge for Baltic independence, that outpaced its post-Soviet cousins in economic growth, couldn't lay bricks fast enough to house its footballing dreams. Meanwhile, the A-Lyga, Lithuania's top football division, collapsed into chaos. FK Akranas, once national champions, dissolved under bankruptcy and match-fixing scandals. FK Vetra vanished. FK Atlantis collapsed. FK Kaunas Algiers withdrew in protest. One club, FK Rudis Karnas, even refused promotion to the top flight, claiming it was too dangerous financially. The league became a graveyard of ambition, riddled with unpaid wages, under-the-table deals, and players willing to throw matches just to survive. Match fixing infected the veins of the sport like a disease. In 2019 alone, the Lithuanian Football Federation suspected 24 matches of being fixed. Nearly 40% of players admitted they'd either been approached or knew someone who had been pressured into throwing a game. The fans, what few were left, walked away. You can't cheer for ghosts. And through it all, the stadium sat. It loomed. It mocked. Political leaders changed. Mayors came and went. Artūras Zuokas, the man once voted among the most corrupt politicians in Lithuanian history, greenlit the revised plans, only to be replaced by Remigijus Amazius, who tore those plans apart. Zuokas had a reputation stained with controversies, from alleged street tile theft to a proposal to buy a Greek island. If the stadium needed comedy, it had it in abundance. But comedy soon gave way to tragedy again. Court appeals, procurement office shutdowns, deadlines missed, budgets blown, EU funding rejected, construction halted, then resumed, then halted again. Every year brought a new promise, a new plan, a new failure. In 2016, a tender was finally issued for construction. A year passed. Offers arrived. Another year. The bid was reviewed. A year later, the bid was approved. But then it was blocked again by the Public Procurement Office, citing excessive risk for the government. Political ego battles were now waged on the battleground of bricks and scaffolding. When the bid was finally approved in court, after nearly 18 months of appeals, the architects chosen were the global giants, Populous, the same minds behind the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London and the Sphere in Las Vegas. Surely they would deliver? Surely the curse was over? Not quite. Just as hope began to flicker back to life, Baltcap, the private equity firm funding the construction, was engulfed in scandal. Sharuna Stepikonis, one of Baltcap's top managers, was accused of embezzling 27 million euros. A portion of the stolen funds was allegedly gambled away in casinos. This was not fiction. This was Lithuania's most important infrastructure project, reduced to a punchline. The Stadium of Dreams, now tied to roulette wheels and slot machines. Baltcap pulled out. The project was handed over to a local real estate developer named Hanner. And for the first time in decades, there was a glimmer of hope. Not roaring, not blazing, just a glimmer. Construction officially broke ground again in May 2023. The design was scaled back, 15,000 seats, 3 training pitches, a museum, a library, and even a kindergarten. UEFA Category 4 compliant, modern, modest, and somehow still miraculous. But a poll conducted just last month revealed the truth. 41% of Vilnius residents believe the stadium will never be finished. 30% think it might, but not now, not soon, not real. Only 19% held on to belief. The rest no longer cared. After 4 decades of lies, litigation, and laughable mismanagement, who could blame them? This is more than the story of a stadium. This is the story of a national crisis, wearing the mask of sport. It's the story of a country finding its way out of tyranny only to be dragged back into mud by its own internal chaos. It's the tale of passion crushed by politics, of corruption eroding confidence, of hope dismantled brick by brick. The Lithuania National Stadium is a mirror, reflecting not just the fate of football in this basketball-obsessed nation, but the failures of governance, of vision, of perseverance. You could argue that Lithuania's chilly climate, its tall population, and its historical success in basketball explain the neglect. But Iceland is colder. Norway is smaller. Sweden is taller. Finland has ice in its veins. And they all found a way. Lithuania could have too, but instead of looking up, it looked sideways. Instead of standing on solid ground, it sank into it. For 4 decades, that muddy hill in Vilnius has whispered the same question to every passing generation. What happens when a dream is held hostage by its own makers? The cursed stadium that's taken 40 years to build may finally rise from the ashes. Or maybe it will fall again, victim to yet another court case, scandal, or change in power. But for now, it exists in a state of suspended disbelief, a national monument to failure, a legacy not of football, but of futility. And until the gates open and real fans walk through, and real games are played on real turf beneath real floodlights, it will remain what it has always been, a graveyard of good intentions, a ruin built on hope, a dream deferred. Do you believe Lithuania's national stadium will ever be finished, or is it already too broken to save? Can a nation rebuild its football future on foundations as cracked? And how many more promises will it take before the people stop believing entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this move you, subscribe, because forgotten football deserves to be remembered